I'm live, by the way, James, just so you know. Hi, my one viewer. I am just chilling. I want to do some sewing project, and I cannot find my thread. I have moved so much stuff. It's a good thing I have multiple sources of. So I'm not going to be here on long today. I just wanted to hang out and better hang of this going live thing. So this is totally this is totally impromptu, not scripted. Hi everybody. I wanted to do a sewing project and I wanted to show you how I do it. And seeing, I was trying to get a hang of lives. Let's be honest, it's weird. It's weird. It's a new world. Doing a live take on a video, way easier because I have a narrative. I have like, I'm going to talk about this item, and this is like, I have no plan. Like my plan is, I'm trying to find. I don't know where I put my other sewing thing. I know it's somewhere. I put it somewhere that makes sense. Can I figure out where? No. So I'm using my backup sewing kit. I'm trying to, nope, you know what? This is going to be the good color. This weird color right here. So one of the things I've learned with YouTube and in general, people don't always do things I think are pretty normal. And one of those things I grew up doing was sewing. Now, I'm not good at sewing. My mother is an expert sewer. She makes her own clothes. She makes her own patterns. Expert sewer. I am a let me mend. Hey, look, Sational. I'm more of a let me mend something. Like I can do a hem. I did take, way back in the dark ages when they taught home economics, you did learn how to do sewing. I mean, that was part of the curriculum in home economics is sewing. At least in my school. And I went to school, home economics is only taught in the 8th grade. I was in San Antonio, Texas at the time. Hey, Chris. Oh, no, I just showed up. This is all impromptu, guys. I didn't put a post out. I just kind of just threw it out there to see who would come in. So I'm doing a sewing project, and I wanted to show some people what it means. And maybe, not that I put it in the listing at all. Because what I've learned about YouTube is people don't always do things that I think are kind of normal. So I did that cleaning video. Hey, hi, Lily. And what I've noticed people, because what I've noticed in bags in general, some of the best buys I have ever gotten in used bags are not because there's anything wrong with the bag. It's just that the bag has never, ever been cleaned because most people buy a thing. We live in a culture and economy that we buy and replace. We don't buy and repair. We buy and replace. So if you're going to be buying and replacing, it doesn't occur to people that they can repair something. And a lot of times we're a product of our success, right? Because there aren't repair that may repair people. If you've ever tried to get anything repaired, it costs just as much to buy something. And we've taught people that it's easier to replace than it is to repair. Hey, Margaret from New York. And who else did I miss? Nobody. Okay. So we're just doing a chat with me. So this is a dress top that was gifted to me by my friend. She bought this from Shein. And this is from Emery Rose. And it is, the problem I have with it is because it's a button closure, it doesn't stay closed on me because I am a little too blessed in the bust. So the way I fix this is I'm going to stitch this completely closed so it doesn't have any opportunity to gape. So that's what I'm saying. Like this dress, I can't wear it if I can't. I don't want to wear something underneath it. I don't want to wear another cami or camisole, and I don't want to come undone. So it closes, but if I move the wrong way, the buttons come undone. So I'm just going to sit here. I need to probably figure out how to, let me see if I can move this. Sorry, guys, just a bit so you can see. Looks weird. We'll try it. My head will be cut off, but so you can guys see what I'm doing. So this is just a sewing thing, guys. Chris says it was cheaper to replace my fridge and have it fixed. Yeah, I know. I know that because with appliances, hey Winnie, I am just here hanging out real quick before Caleb's live. I don't want to interrupt. I think his isn't starting for. Wait a minute. When is his live? When does he go live? Hey, keep an eye out, somebody. When Caleb goes live, I'll get off. Because I'm talking about instead of repairing things, we just replace things because our culture has now made it so that it's cheaper and more effective to just buy a new thing. So I have this. So I want to show people a simple sewing. I'll get off too. Yes, Winnie, let me know, and I'll get off. We'll just all quit, and we'll go to Caleb's. I didn't want to rain on his parade, but I wanted to figure out how to do this a little bit better. So Margaret says, absolutely bought a beautiful handbag years ago and needs stitching on the sides, which the seller said took it for great cobbler in New York, and they did it. Yeah, if you get a good cobbler. It's trying to be nasty. Well, you see, the problem is, Winnie, I take things too literally. So I couldn't get the innuendo because you weren't saying it. Public, hey, PSA. So what I'm trying to show you is some quick sewing things that helps. So this is a top I have. It's a dress that has a button front that I can't wear because this needs to stay closed completely. It doesn't stay closed on its own because I'm too blessed in the top area. So what I've learned is most people don't know how to do simple mending because we replace everything. So this is just a thread. So the difference is in how you start this thread. Okay, if you notice the loop. That's a loop. So you take a long piece, you fold it in half, and then you thread the two cut ends through here, right? So the two cut ends went through the eye, and the end here is just a loop. Now, this is a trick you use in cross stitching too. So what you do, and why would you do that? Like, Jackie, why would you do that? You knot the end? No, you don't knot the end. It's actually better if you don't knot the end. Knot ends come undone. And you have weird fraying, really uncool ends. So here I'm going right here, and I'm just going to, and this is going to be like not professional, guys. I'm not a professional. I'm mending something. I don't want an invisible seam. So I just start here. And the trick, and why you have that loop, and this is the simplest thing ever, is you take the loop, closed end. That's it. That is the easiest thing to do. And now I'm going to do is just do a straight stitch, and I'm not going to do an invisible stitch. I'm not doing anything fancy. I'm literally just stitching this closed so I can wear it. And Miss Dee Dee, this is a dress you gave me. Jen, it fit my sister perfectly, but she thought it was a little too grandma chic, and I thought it was perfect. So I'm going to make it work for me instead of her, because she was like, I'm not going to wear that, Jackie. I'm like, that's fine. I'll wear it. So anyway, hey Mel, let's see. We are just doing a sewing thing. I'm fixing a shirt. Nothing real crazy here. I just showed a trick on how to do. So we all get clothes. This is from DDB. She gave this to me, but I can't close it. So I'm showing you how you can just do a quick little repair, or not even a repair, just a modification so that you can wear a shirt. And you can do this, with anything. I've hemmed pants, I've hemmed shirts, because we wear clothes today that is all pre-made. Not all of our bodies are the same. And then sometimes when you get an outfit, you're like, well, what do I do with this now? Because now I can't wear this. And like, this is because um and I actually have a sewing machine, but it's in my storage shed. I didn't want to deal with that. And there's a way you can actually do this so that it's invisible, but this is going to be like a quick and dirty way of doing it. And that's why I try to match the thread perfectly, because I'm just doing a running stitch, nothing fancy, very boring. And you'll be able to see it, but you can see the stitch line right here too. But you have to look really closely. I mean, really, honestly, people are staring at my chest. It's like, excuse me, you know. But that's also why I always wear high-necked things, because here's the thing about clothing. When you work in an office and when you work with a bunch of engineers, most engineers are men. And when you're in an office, you're sitting at a desk, you are, when men walk by in an open environment, they look down to talk to you and you look up to talk to them. And if you have a V-neck, you are having a free show. So we try not to do that. Hey, Lisa. Let's see. Wait, you don't go through the back. Are you? Okay, I have no idea what you're talking about, Winnie. Is the sleeve for me don't fit the arms? Yes. The Winnie method, quick. Yay, no free shows. Yeah, no free shows. And it's something I didn't notice until we changed our cube configurations a couple years ago. We used to all face into a corner because everybody had the big CTR monitors that were like in the corner, because that's how everybody had desks and computer monitors. But then we got the flat monitors, and then everybody changed the orientation to on your desk and how you sit. So then people were just walking by constantly and looking over your shoulder, and then you talk to them. And I felt really self-conscious, because what doesn't look very immodest, sitting is like, okay, let's not do this. Let's see. Margarita says, Jackie, my aunt was a seamstress. My baby sister was a great with sewing due to her ailments. You can no longer. Yeah, that happens. My hobby is actually needlepoint before YouTube, and partially stopped it. And I've been doing needlepoint since I was 16, maybe a little younger. My mother did cross stitch, and my mother is an actually amazing seamstress. She does her own patterns, and she sews her own evening gown. My mother was a housewife, and is a housewife still. When we were children, and of course I was born in 79. In 79, children's clothing was extremely expensive. Extremely. It was cheaper for women to sew their own kids' clothing than to buy clothing. It was just cheaper, period, to do that. And what happened was, somehow in the last 40 years, everything's flipped, where it's more expensive to make your own clothing. So sewing has gone out of favor. So, because mainly textiles are all imported now. It used to be that America made textiles, and it was cheaper just to buy fabric. But now that everything is cheaper to make fabric and have other people do all the sewing now. So people here, we don't sew. But my mother, because when we were children, she had twins, and she would sew all of our kids' clothes. Like, we have pictures. Almost all my pictures as kids were of Jennifer and I in homemade clothes. But now kids' clothes are so expensive. I mean, excuse me, inexpensive. They're so cheap. My mom came to visit about 10 years ago. Can you break down what a thimble's for? A thimble, okay, I actually have, do I have one? I might have one. Hold on. Chris, a thimble is a sewing aid for hand sewing specifically, that is meant to protect your fingertips. That's all it is to help push a needle through. Do I even have one? I used to have one. This is my backup sewing kit, my better sewing kit. I don't know where oh, here it is. Here's a thimble. So this is an old thimble. This probably belonged to my grandmother. This is how old this was. It's just a metal cap you put on your hand so that when you sew, you can push the needle through. And you do this for thick fabric, very thick fabric. So thick jeans, denim, burlap. I go to those thrift stores. You know what I find in thrift stores? Thrift stores is I always go to the notion section, because the notion section has things that they don't make anymore that your mother and grandmother didn't tell you about. It used to be common to go into any store and it would be easy to find leather stitching needles, because you would have to stitch burlap or even leather. You did a lot of home repair. You just didn't buy something. And now you can't find those. And now needles, cheap needles, are so cheap that they just bend and break and snap. So to get a really good needle, you see, I broke a needle once trying to force something through too many layers. Yes, it's not so much the layers either, it's the needle. So there's different sizes of needles, the gauge of needle and the head, the eye of the needle. And what you need is a stainless steel needle. So upholstery work, people who do upholstery work, they are masters at this. You can get, so right now in America, it is easier to go to Hobby Lobby or a craft store and find what is called a doll needle, DOLL, long, very long needle, meant, and you can use that in a lot of my handbag repairs and stuff. I use that kind of needle because you can't find leather needles as easy. It used to be just a common thing, and I now look for stainless steel needles, and some of the best needles made, they're from Japan. You know, it's like, excuse me, because I do a lot of, when you're doing embroidery work, I've done embroidery work, and the sharpness of the needle, how dull, how sharp, what the material's made out of, what the eye is made out of, what thread you're using, it all makes a difference. Most thread was cotton, now it's polyester. It makes a difference in almost anything, like silk thread. Oh my gosh, let's not even talk about silk thread. I spend a fortune on silk thread. Anyway, my first hobby was sewing. It was hand sewing, mainly because we took sewing classes with machines. But okay, so here's the thing with machines. So you have to have patterns when you're making clothes, which means patience. Patience. And patience with a machine means you stitch, you stop, you fold, you iron, you have to do all of, there's so much that when I see these clothes that are so cheap, I just don't understand how it can be so cheap. So much work goes into this. Winnie, I want to make a bag. I have, it's right behind me. Hold please. I'll be right back. It's right here. I have, well, don't lose the needle. I have this thing I have to do, and I've been meaning to do it. Oh, man. I hate to admit this out loud. Do you see this? Okay. This is something I've had for at least 5 years, guys. 5 years. So this is a needle point. So all the threads in there that I can use. This is silk. This is a silk thread. This is the canvas. So if you can see, it has holes through it. So you're actually putting the silk, stabbing a thing 1,000 times, right? This is it. And it's the way this is made, it has all the finishing done. So all I have to do is stitch this top, and I stitch the backing to this, and I have a handbag. I should probably, this might have to be one of my craft with me projects. I should really do this. So each one of these threads, they're called skeins of thread, the silk one, they're about $6 a skein now. It's a very expensive hobby. We will not discuss how much this cost. Actually, we can. I have, nope. Oh, good. They took the price off because it's so funny. I've been doing this for so long. I've spent so much money. I've spent more money on needlework than I have ever spent on hand. Well, I can't say that now that I've done my LV journey, but before I bought LV, I've spent more money on needlework probably in my whole life than I have with LV. And the thing is, my husband got wise to it because he was like, I said, honey, what about this canvas? Canvas is gorgeous. I love this canvas. And he said, yeah, that's a great canvas. And the price isn't bad. It was like a $300 canvas. And he's like, but you're going to spend $400 to $500 buying thread. And I'm like, dang it. Why does he know that? It's needlepoint is an extremely expensive hobby. Expensive, and it does nothing. It's nothing but decoration. It's all it is. It's just decoration. It serves no purpose other than beautiful. It does. So it's right up there with my handbag problem. At least the handbags have some purpose. They hold things. My needlework is just to be pretty and admired, and occasionally I give it away as gifts. And actually, all of it I give away as gifts. I really don't have any. I just I work on it, and then it's just my family was old school. My grandparents were Baptist, and idle hands were not encouraged. Idle hands were discouraged greatly. So if you were holding a thing, doing a thing, reading a book, sewing on something, you could sit there for 5 hours. My grandmother would never complain as long as you were sitting there doing something. If you were sitting there, if you're watching TV, it was not considered something. So even to this day, when I watch television, and I can't just watch television. I have to do something. Like I'll scroll on my phone, I'll work on something else, I'll stitch constantly because I was told that I couldn't just do one thing. So I don't pay attention to the show, and it drives James crazy. A lot of times I'm not even watching the show. I'm listening to the show. Same with podcasts, the same with audiobooks. I'm not really listening. Let's see. Wow, that's awesome. Never did needlepoint, but latch hook. Latch hook is pretty cool. I never got into latch hook. I did want to do punch needle, but I never did that either. Knitting was a disaster. I could crochet, but knitting, my tension was fine, but I don't know how I would add a stitch or not add a stitch. What other hobbies do you guys have? Does anybody do? I mean, there's a lot of people who do. Used to be scrapbooking was huge, and then there was we have a hobby. I mean, we have Hobby Lobby. It's a whole store dedicated to crafts, and it's not mostly fabric. It's mostly other crafts. Diamond painting is huge right now. I don't have the patience for diamond. I can stab a canvas 1,000 times, and I could do this, but give me a diamond painting, and I go nuts. I'm like, no, I hate this. I can't stand this. It's driving me crazy. I can't do it. Oh, puzzles. Yes, Chris, I love puzzles, but I get obsessive compulsive with puzzles, and so it becomes a little less fun. But I love puzzles. I love looking for patterns. And I do it weird. I never did the rim first. I always picked colors. I did color groupings. Oh, Margarita says I worked a graveyard shift or double shift. Ouch. That's rough. I like the night shift though when I worked it, but Fridays are the worst on the night shift. I've been thinking about trying watercolors on. Hey, Chris, that'd be great. A little nerve-wracking, but watercolors you have to do quickly because of the dry time, but it's also something you have to. That's the one thing I've found about lives that I'm having issues with is I have to narrate and talk constantly because I don't have a person with me. It's just me, and it's like I'm thinking about my next live is going to be next Monday for my regular live, about writing down some talking points like Winnie was doing on her lives, and I was watching Jacob's lives. He comes with talking points too, and I've watched a bunch of stories. I don't know if you guys are following a bunch of stuff in the YouTube land, but who did it? Sophie Sofet just did a video today about shopping and luxury houses. About one of her contacts from a well-known luxury house is saying that the the word we're not supposed to say, the pandemic, really affected their bottom line, but it's not publicly known. But then she says that with the Chanel launch, it's just happened like this week, people were lining up to buy. But, I think there's tiers. People who buy Chanel buy Chanel. I think that's just not a thing that's going to be affected because that's the top tier anyway. But I think people like to say, well, that's a luxury brand. But when it's mostly geared towards a certain level of it, I'm not saying class, I'm just saying income, a certain level of income. Like, I can afford an LV bag. I used to, not anymore, but I could before. So that's a luxury brand I used to be able to purchase, and now I cannot. But that's also a brand I see in my everyday life. So to me, that's an approachable, attainable brand that's common for me to see. I see Louis Vuitton. I see Prada occasionally. I see Gucci. I have seen maybe one Hermes bag I've seen, and I'm not going to the places that cater to people who are carrying these bags because I don't go to Saks and Neiman's. I'm going to Dillard's and Macy's, guys. Dillard's and Macy's in the outlet malls. So I'm going to the zoo with my kid, not my kids, my sister's kids. I'm going to the movies. I'm going to the barbecue joint, going to the pizza place. And in those places, I don't see high-end luxury. I just don't. So it's just it's a weird conversation to have, like, because Sophie was getting some criticisms about she was supposed to do more mindful spending, but then she was showing luxury shopping vlog, but she said she didn't buy anything. She was shopping. She was looking. So Chris says Chanel is its own world when it comes to prestigious sets. I agree. And it's so weird. I was talking to Linda. I think it was Linda P or Linda S. Maybe it was Linda S. One of the Lindas. And we were talking about Chanel. And I was saying I always associate Chanel with an older lady because when I was younger, that's who I saw carrying Chanel. I never saw anybody carrying a Chanel bag that was in their 20s, ever. Growing up, it was somebody carrying Chanel when they were in their, 50s. It was, and now I'm 40. How old are we? 42, 43? I can never remember. Anyway, that's a sign of growing old, right? You stop counting. And so anyhow, it's just not something I associate with young people. But now that with YouTube, I see young people in their 20s with Chanel. Margarita says, Jack, I never really cared for luxury bags, although I bought one. It's sitting in my closet. What did you buy, Margarita? I want to know. Because you know what? I love luxury bags, and that's what I've learned about myself, because this is a commentary on Amelia's video that she did about her luxury, I guess her mistakes of learning how to curate her collection. I love luxury. It's not practical or useful in my life. So it's something I admire greatly, but what makes my heart happiest is something that is well made, practical, and at a price point that isn't gonna be impossible to replace for me. So for me, it's Dooney. It's Coach. Well, no, okay, no, guys, Coach. Coach, I don't know who they're making these bags for, but did you see that $1,800 tote? And then the day they just launched another part of their Shine collection, it's called the Idol bag, and it is $695 US. I'm like, who's buying that bag? Who? $700, and it's a small box bag. It's a small square bag, a large C. It has a chain. And I don't with the chain. I'm like, I hope that looks better in person, because in photos, I'm like, you don't look that wonderful. You don't look $700 wonderful. Let's see. Margarita Balenciaga. I did an overnight when the day shift came in, and I was buying one. Not impressed. Chris says I was delusioned into thinking it was normal to have luxuries in my 20s, spent years hating myself for not having it. Now that I have it, I see I was foolish in my ways. Thank you, Chris. Yes, I had luxury in my teens and in my 20s, but luxury in my teens and my 20s was a bag. A bag, a luxury bag that you wore for special occasions, and you took care of it and you kept it. It wasn't evolving. It wasn't trends. How many seasons does one company need of product? It's kind of crazy. Millie says, my area is considered affluent and I do see a lot of luxury, but I am working class. I happily shop at Coach Outlet and Fossil. Winnie says, Chris is good, you're young and figured it out. Yes, Chris. Yeah, and even if it is affluent, I'm not. I mean, I think I'm comfortable. I'm up to debt to my eyeballs, but I have a job and a house, and I don't have creditors knocking on my door quite yet. You know, I'm to manage, so it's not like I'm destitute technically. I mean, don't talk to my credit cards, you know, but the credit card companies, but here's the deal. They lent me the money and I'm paying them back, you know? So anyway, but I'm not, I like Coach, but Coach retail at this point is almost a pipe dream. I have a lot of Coach retail bags, but like, okay, both of these bags right here, this one and the one up there, these are both from last year's collection, and this one I bought on sale right around, I think right under 300. The one up there I got for 150 because it just somehow popped up at the outlet. And that's what, you know, and the problem I have with Coach is because they drop so many releases. Like, I love that Shine collection. I think that Shine collection is gorgeous. Says Margarita says, Jackie, I have the 90s made in the USA Coach tote, which is way better. Yes, that's the thing. It's like, if things were better made 30 years ago and they cost, I mean, okay, 20 years ago, the Coach bag I couldn't afford was called I always call it the stewardess bag. It's that messenger side flap. And it had a beautiful chambray blue leather, all leather. It was $200 20 years ago. And I couldn't afford it because $200 20 years ago was like, and 20 years ago is still in the 2000s, guys. But I was in college and I'm like, I can't afford that. You know, that's so expensive. If I spent, I mean, in the early 2000s, I think I was spending $50 for a bag, and that was at a Vera Bradley. They were Vera Bradley bags, you know. I have seen Coach retail for thousands before, but now, but it's an exotic and it's very rare. It's shocking that they want their lesser prices to be $500. I know, $500. And here's the deal with that Idol bag that's selling for almost $700. Now I understand the Rogues. I get why the Rogues are expensive. They're heavy. There is a lot of leather in those bags. There's a lot of the way the compartments are made. I get it. It's a little bit more than I want to spend for a bag, but I have 3 of them. So I have found a way to get them, right? So not new, not custom, not, you know, I didn't order them from Coach. I got them pre-loved. But the thing is, like with that, you say, well, it must be really good leather. I've had Louis Impromptu leather. It's not the best leather. I don't actually like the way it wears. I don't like it. That's why I sold my Impromptu bags. I had 2. Did I have 2? 2 or 3? 2. I had Speedy in Damier. No, Speedy in Rose. What's that rose called? Rose Ballerine, I think. In a Speed 25 in the Impromptu. And I had a seasonal bag in blueberry. It was a beautiful Impromptu. But the leather doesn't wear as well as New York Coach. And they cost thousands of dollars. Thousands. I'm like, why did I buy this? The Coach canvas, excellent. Amazing. But Coach leather, I'm not impressed. I mean, I have the epi leather, but that's a heavily treated leather. It's like the Saffiano. Anything that treated better be hard wearing. Margarita says, Luxational, a coach made in New York where it was originally made, is the best. I agree. And I had a couple. I actually gave one to Caleb. I don't know what he did with it. It didn't. I don't think it went to his vlog sale. He might still have that one. You still find them 40 years later still being used because they were made so well. The quality was so well. The printer is gonna print, so I'm sorry for the noise. The microphone is gonna pick that up. This is Chris. Chats with Chris. Chris says, I mean, seriously, I'm sure Chanel doesn't have special cows. Are they superior coach cows? Okay, I made that comment on Leather Tanner's page about fancy cows, and people were talking about, well, have you heard about Wagyu? I'm like, that's the inside of the cow. I'm not sure if that breed or the way they raise those cows affects the leather of the cow, because here's the thing, guys. Leather hides are removed. They had to remove the fur, right? And then it's tanned, and it goes through this huge process to preserve it. I mean, so what special cowhide, Hermes, I'm looking at you, or even all those other people, what are you doing to this cowhide? What cows are you using? It's like, it's all, I want, I don't know. I just found out today, by the way, that my vintage mulberry is buffalo, not bovine, which I think is interesting. Buffalo hide is very hard wearing. I've had elephant wallets, elephant skin wallets. I grew up in Thailand. I grew up next to a crocodile farm. And next to a crocodile farm is relative. I mean, we went to one. I'm not even sure that place is still in business. It's probably closed. This was in the 80s, people, 80s. And elephants are a revered animal in Thailand. It's a national animal, and they're preserved. They're taken care of. They're very much treated with respect. And part of that respect is when they die, you use the material. You use the skin of the elephant, and you make products. Elephant leather is extremely durable. My dad used elephant leather wallets exclusively for 40 years. We still have those wallets. I know it's weird. People get all upset because they're like, it's an elephant. I'm like, yes, and they die. And when they die, you can use the parts of the body, and then you take care of the other parts of the body, and you bury them. It's the way it is. Margarita says, Jackie, I have a vintage mulberry rosemary from the UK, and that is great leather. Yeah, I have. I think both of mine are from the UK. I was so excited because I'm like, oh yes, I have something that's made in England. Not very much stuff is made in England. Not very much stuff is made in America. So when you find something that's made in America, I get excited. I actually want a Louis Vuitton made in the United States. It's like, please, that'd be great. People are like, oh, I want to be made in France. I've been to France several times. Not impressed. My cousins lived there for 40, well, maybe not 40 years. She moved there in the 90s. So, oh God. Is that 40 years now? No, 90s, 2000s. Okay, 30 years. 30 years. He's been there 30 years. So I was like, he can't be. Yeah. My cousins live in Paris. I have cousins in Paris. My mother lives in Denmark. I have a cousin in Belgium. I have a cousin in Oslo, Norway. And my mom lives in Denmark half the year, and the other half of the year she lives in Thailand. And I stay in Texas. I like it here. I don't like traveling anymore. And I had to explain to my mother in America, the way it works is I don't have vacation for a month. I can't go visit you for a month, Mom. Chris, cows being tasty is not part of the purchase price. Yes, and actually, they were talking, Super Jacob just talked about this yesterday in his live. I don't know if anybody caught it, but it is about Hermes separating not Hermes, but Apple separating their relationship with Hermes. About they did a deal with Hermes about the watch bands because Apple wants to be more sustainable or whatever. I'm like, and in my brain, I am like, Apple, lithium ion, sustainable? Hello? Not just that, they're talking about their watch bands, leather being not sustainable product. It might not be sustainable in the fact that it's it's a one-time use kind of thing, but if you take care of it, leather can last like over 100 years. So it's like long wearing, durable material as a byproduct from the meat industry. Unless we're not going to stop eating meat, I'd rather us use the leather than to, throw it out. That seems ridiculous. When he says I've got cousins who live together, it's all kinds of wrong. Oh, that needs to be alive, man. That's hilarious. I always tell people that my family's feud. My grandparents caused it. My dad and my aunt feuded for more than 20 years. Most of their life, actually, over a family argument that never ever got solved. And now that my grandparents are gone, my dad and my aunt are no longer alive, it's just us, cousins. We just decided we're just not going to talk to each other. It worked out better. Yes, Chris, leather is biodegradable, which in fact is sustainable. I don't understand. I think Apple was just making up stuff because they just were trying to spin it off as we're being really greenwashing a little bit. But Hermes is still going to be selling Apple Watch bands. So, I mean, if Apple really cared about sustainability, they would have a trade-in program. Mm-hmm. Hi, Melly. I have no idea what point I made. That was so great, but thank you. Chris, if life was longer, using as much plastic might make sense. Well, here's the thing about my issue with plastics, and y'all are gonna okay. I worked in gas and oil for 11 years, and part of one of my papers I wrote in my master's class was about the early gas and oil production in Texas, because the reason why Texas, now this is going to be what people don't tell you. The reason why the refineries are here on the coast in Texas, because this is where we first found, the first oil was actually found in Pennsylvania, but the first large amount of oil was found here in Texas. And what they did was, when they had Spindletop way over in Beaumont, Texas, East Texas, and it's a salt dome, it's a formation, and when they tapped that salt dome, all that oil came out, and they put it in open pits in the ground. Because there was no way to store it. This is early days. This is 1900s early days. And part of the oil refinery process is plastics. Plastics is from petroleum. Without petroleum, there are no plastics, right? And plastics are mostly an organic compound. People want to, if you want to think they're vegan and it's all plants, go for it. But, that's not really how it works all the time. But anyhow, so plastics, when you make it into the products that we have every day and use, yes, it will not every piece of plastic ever made is still on Earth, as everybody likes to explain. But you're like, then why does it get brittle? Something about the fiber of the plastics when they make it, as it gets sun UV rays, because sun is radiation, and it gets brittle and it breaks apart. So people are like, so you can have it, it's usable, but at some point it just fails. It fails on you. And I have lots of plastics. There's lots of plastic in medical waste. There's lots of plastic everywhere. Everywhere there's plastic. I think the issue really is how we have to figure out a way to reuse it. But as long as it's cheaper just to produce more, we'll never be better about using the plastic already produced. Hey, from California, Amanda. Chat Chris says, wow, that's a way to say that every piece of plastic ever made is still. Oh yeah, it is. Oh yeah, every piece of plastic ever produced on Earth, and since we've made plastic, is still here, because it takes 10,000 years for it to biodegrade. I mean, it's all here. You can do different things with it. I guess if you've burned it, it's gone, but you just change the form. It just goes in the atmosphere, to be honest. I'm a geography major, guys. I know a lot about a little. Nothing, lots and lots of stuff about lots of little things. Nothing I'm not quite a specialist, but I always found Earth. I almost went to geology, but I didn't want to spend my life in gas and oil. And then I got my job out of college was in gas and oil for 11 years. I found it very ironic, extremely ironic. That the one thing I didn't want to, I didn't go into geology. I went to geography, so I didn't spend my life working with gas and oil. And then I spent 11 years doing that. And now I still, my job, my day job, still associated with gas and oil, guys. It's just the public sector. It's not, I do live in Texas, you know? So anyhow, like don't even get me on my tirade about fracking. People didn't like me in college because I am pro gas and oil because I'm a realist. And as a realist, yes, it's not, we're not going to stop using it. We're still going to keep using it. We need to use it smarter. People say it's evil, but coal is worst. If you know how we, and here's the deal, your power on your grid. I know how I got off topic on this, but it's here in Texas. We have a combination of coal, natural gas, it's wind, solar, and nuclear. We have all of them, and it's portions of it. Actually, nuclear is probably some of the best energy you can produce. The problem with nuclear is that when you use the nuclear material through the first process of use, that then becomes weapons grade by that first. James, what's it called?
After the second.
After the first use, it becomes weapons grade, right?
No, after the second.
After the second, it becomes weapons. So the first time you use it, we're cool. The second time, you have what we do in America anyway is we store it, right? We store it in a mountain because it's dangerous, right? So anyway, what I'm telling you, if you didn't know, is that we have a lot of, maybe I should say that on YouTube. It's not a secret that we have weapons grade uranium in storage.
We specifically don't.
We specifically don't because we don't process it the second time.
Everybody else does.
Everybody else does. We have the ability. James almost went to nuclear engineering. He tells me all the stuff all the time. So anyhow, getting off that soapbox. But there's not enough solar and wind power to. It's not the production of power. It's not the sun is always radiating. The wind is always blowing. The problem is how you store that energy, and then how do you get it to where it needs to go. And right now it's lithium batteries, and that's a heavy metal. So then you have metal issues. Where does metal come from? The earth. It's not as simple as people want to make you think it is. Anyway, off that soapbox. I don't want to bore everybody to death. This is sewing. I'm sewing, guys. This is all I'm supposed to be doing here. Talking about handbags and sewing. I want to not alienate all my new friends. Yes, I do get on soapboxes. I just get a little upset because people like to point out the negatives, but they never tell me about how do you fix it. Like, so if you're going to sit here and tell me this is ruining the world and this is all the evils, and I'm like, fine, how do we fix it? Well, how do you change it? What's your proposal? And I don't care what your idea is. I just want to know you have one. Because if you're just sitting there complaining, then if you're sitting there pointing all the negatives, like, this is wrong. The earth is going to be ruined. We have to save the planet. I'm like, great. What's your plan? How do you propose to do that? Do you walk? Do you ride a bike? Do you stop driving? Do you like electricity? And that's too extreme, right? We're not going to go back to the Stone Ages. So the point is, come up with ideas, solutions, and technology to make what we have last longer. Luxation was so awesome. Ex-father-in-law, and he was sweet, inspiring man. Yeah, I used to. Realism is hard to swallow sometimes. We like to be, realistically, I have no idea how the companies that make these clothes make money other than by volume and unit by volume, and that is the only way. And we are the consumers, because that's something my mom always says is that she comes here because she's been living in Denmark so long now, and Europe in general, that she comes to America. She's like, you have so many things here. I'm like, Mom, you're American. Yeah, but I don't live here anymore. She's like, she always comes here, and her thing to do when she comes here is shopping, because she's like, oh my gosh, you have so many clothes and everything here is so cheap. And when I say cheap, she's going to the Nordstrom's rack. She spent she was buying stuff imported from Europe in America cheaper than she could buy it in Europe. Which is supposed to be the other way around, right? Amanda says, I agree. We need to use it smarter. In the UK, it's standard to have a gas car and have an average to 45 to 50 miles per gallon. It does not happen. Oh, gosh, no. Gosh, no. I think that's a gas car. Would that have to be diesel? 40 to 50 miles per gallon? Oh, I guess that's a gas electric. That's probably a hybrid. Yeah. Anyway, while I've been talking to you, my husband has been making dinner and taking care of the dogs and being very sweet. We bought what did we get? Shepherd's pie from Costco. I didn't even know they had um, shepherd's pie at Costco. And I've made my own. My friend is from South Africa. She taught me. Her parents originally are from England. And she said, okay, so I'm doing this wrong. So shepherd's pie is made with lamb. What she taught me was cottage pie, which is ground beef. Diesel gets more. Yeah, diesel gets more. It's more efficient. I agree. James would love a diesel car. It's almost impossible to get one here. Also, standard transmissions, which is why they were called standards, are actually better for your mileage. How the machines work. It's a simpler machine. But anyway, fun talk.
That's becoming less so.
But that's becoming less so, as James just pointed out. But now Ford is getting rid of in the North American market, they're getting rid of their cars, as they only have the Mustang and the Mach-E, and I think that's the only car they have. Like, so their Ford Fusion, the Ford Focus, the little cars, they're still selling those in the Asian market, but not in the American market. So they're talking about reducing. They're no longer, in 2 years they're going to stop producing the Ford Transit which is their minivan, and they're talking about stopping to produce the Escape. Was it the Escape? Escape. So they're just going to be keeping their larger trucks, but their larger trucks are becoming a new line called the Lightning, which is coming out, which is their Ford, the 150. Is it the 150? The 150 line, which is going to be electric. Man, all I know is with these electric cars, you better up your car insurance, because if you hit a car that's an electric car, they're all over $100,000. I'm originally from the Northern Ireland and love shepherd's pie and cottage pie. Yes, I love them both. Anyway, I know that Caleb is going to be going live pretty soon, and I always go catch his show, and I know a lot of you guys do too. And look, I have finished sewing that one thing. It shouldn't have taken me. How long have I been on? Where is that? Oh, 53 minutes. But man, and I stitched it crooked. It's not my best work, guys. maybe a craft with me while I'm talking and trying to read is not the best, but it's yeah. Anyhow, it works. It works. It'll be fine. So anyway, I'm gonna get off with this, and I'm gonna go live again next Monday. And I'm probably gonna have some kind of show notes, but honestly, it's just a chat with me, to hang out, story time. Eventually, I always think I'll run out of things to say, and then I talk for an hour. So, I mean, I really didn't mean to talk for an hour. Anyhow, thank you, everybody. Bye. How to turn on? How do I get all this? Oh, there it is. End live stream.